At 2:06 a.m., the microwave clock blinked blue in the dark kitchen, a colon pulsing like a heartbeat. The house was too clean for that hour. Counters wiped to a squeak, the cherrywood table polished with something that smelled of lemon and ambition. My mug sat cold where I'd left it at 10:17 p.m., a ring of Earl Grey marking my place like archaeology. I'm 72, and old men wake to small noises. Pipes, wind, memory. What woke me that night were voices. Not the TV. My son Daniel always leaves it on low, a late-night baseball murmuring itself into sleep. No, these were lighter, sharpened whispers threaded with the whir of a laser printer and the clack of a stapler. From a basement, I stood, bones complaining, and the floor told me what it always tells me. The plank by the fridge still needs tightening. I'll get to it. I've said for 2 years because that's what fathers say when they live in their son's house. They keep stories. They don't keep score. Or so I told myself. The basement door was open a thumb's width. A ribbon of white light edged the stairs. I paused, smelling bleach and something else. Hot plastic, the breath of a printer hard at work. My hand found the railing. The first step groaned. I slipped off my slippers and went barefoot. Halfway down, the voices separated over the whine of a dehumidifier humming in the corner. Dan's wife, Maya, steady and crisp. Her brother, Lucas, the kind of man who wears cologne to lift boxes. The last voice came and went, a woman reading off lines like a flight attendant, precise and bored. A notary? No, too late for a notary. And yet the word perched in my head. We record it at 8:15, Maya was saying, before he is awake. The reconveyance clears the lien. Without it, the helic won't fund. Lucas laughed. He wakes at 6. He's old. Then we go now, she snapped. Print the page with his signature. We have a sample. My name lay in the air between their words like a lost coin. At the bottom of the stairs, I saw the battlefield. A folding banquet table, the kind you rent for graduations, now covered with manila folders. A brother HL. L2390 of you spitting out pages face down. A spiral notepad with numbers tallied in anxious columns. A neat, square stamp pad. A black case with a seal I could not yet see. An open laptop with a county recording site glowing like a portal. A cardboard banker's box labeled in Maya's narrow hand. Trust. March. And another. Dad loan. I crouched in shadow at the end of the bookshelf where we keep old tax returns and one sad box of my wife's scarves. Ellen's lilac scarf lay on top, folded in half. I thought, if I move, I'll knock it down. So I didn't move. Maya's tone changed as she counted. Principal due on the private note, $310,000. The reconveyance says satisfied in full. We file that, then the new lender releases $200. With the helic, we clear Visa, Chase, and pay Lucas back. We're done sneaking money from Peter. Lucas stretched, chair creaking. And the old man? By the time he understands, it will be recorded. A paper snapped. Besides, I told Dan to grow a spine. Dad will be safer in assisted living. He fell last month. I tripped on the rug. I wanted to say, but the words rustled only in my throat. The printer chirped victory and fell silent. The bored woman read again. Now close enough that I saw her contents. An online notary service, flat voice through the laptop speakers. Affirm that the signatures are voluntary. Affirm that signers are present. Maya clicked it away. They were building a machine of paper and plan, and I was the raw material. For a moment, anger was a clean, precise thing like an engineer's caliper, something I could set down exactly. 2:13 a.m., my son's basement, reconveyance lien, hella private note, my name. Then it heated, rippled, went muddy. If I stood, if I said my name, if I asked, they would say it wasn't like that. It's family. It's for the best. My house. My money. My safety. Ellen would have told me not to believe them when they hold a pen and call it love. I left without a sound, carrying the image of the black case with the metal seal etched deep. California, Eagle, the year legitimacy. I climbed until the kitchen was a dark lake again. The microwave blinked 2:19. Daniel's Lexus keys were on the hook by the mudroom door, his gym shoes tossed under the bench at a familiar angle, the one that says son. I put on my slippers and sat at the table with the lemon polish and thought about what I had done and what I hadn't. Then I went to my room, closed the door, and opened the shoebox. The shoebox is from an old pair of Rockports that Ellen called my dad's shoes. Inside, the old brick of a BlackBerry I can't make myself throw out, a bundle of ribbon letters from 1975 that still smell like cheap perfume and rain, and a manila envelope containing the original promissory note, $380,000, dated March 15, 2017, by which my son and his wife promised to repay me for the house on Adair Street. No bank, no mortgage broker, just us, a notary named Paul who kept mints in his jacket, and a deed of trust recorded 2 days later, giving me a lien, a father's leash on his own generosity. I lent them the money at 2.75% because they were starting a family and because Daniel's student loans were a millstone that never shut up. Because after Ellen's second chemo failed and the doctor said palliative, my life contracted to hospital rooms and home oxygen and insurance EOBs, and then, after April 29, 2019, to a hole in the shape of a woman who used to finish my sentences and warm the bed and curse at the news with me. The house on Adair felt like a way to still be doing something that lasted. The ledger I kept is meticulous because I'm old-fashioned that way. Down payment, 2017, $95,000, wired to the title company of Westlake. I saved the confirmation on my printer because I like paper more than clouds. HVAC replacement, September 2018, $7,400. Check number 1142 to Lennox dealer. Roof repair, February 2019, $3,200. Ellen said the old shingles would not last a winter. Bridge loan, Dan Job Gap, November 2020 to January 2021, $12,000. 3 Zelle transfers for $1,000 each. Daycare for Sophie, their daughter, 2021 to 2023, $18,600. 12 payments of $1,550 when COVID closures rearranged life. Emergency IVF after the miscarriage, May 2022, $24,500. Credit card paid off with a check from my CD. Tickets to New York for Maya's mother's surgery, June 2023, $2,748. I kept the itinerary. I was proud of being useful. Pride is a stupid emotion at my age. Total principal on the note after extra principal payments, $310,000 due. Last adjusted June 3, 2024. Add the small stuff, and we crossed $200,000 beyond note itself. Add the note, and we're walking past $500,000 of a life's work dedicated to a boy who used to curl into my side and say my name like a prayer. I call it my money. What Maya calls it, I suppose, is our future. Trouble starts small. It never announces itself as criminal. It comes as expediency. A little will fix the paperwork later. A little, Dad, the appraiser was low. We have to refinance fast. And one day you are listening to your daughter-in-law manufacture a reality where your signature is optional. If you're wondering why I'm in this house at all, why the note, why the lie-downs at 2 in the afternoon because grief knocks a man sideways, here is the answer you're owed. After Ellen, I moved into the guest room at Daniel's for a few months, and months have a way of slipping into years when you're lonely, older than your furniture, and your granddaughter makes dinosaur sounds that puncture your gloom. I pay my share because I thought it would keep the ledgers clean. $900 in rent each month for a room in a house I financed. $175 for my utilities share. $50 towards streaming services I never use. It felt polite, and politeness is a drug. You can be robbed by a smile if you've taught yourself that conflict is dangerous. At 2:41 a.m., I took the note out, spread it on the bedspread, and read my son's signature under the promise to pay. The ink was a practical blue. No flourishes. A name does not need to be pretty to be binding. I placed Ellen's old pewter paperweight on the corner so it wouldn't curl. Then I picked up my phone, turned on the voice memo, and dictated what I'd just seen. The table, the printer, the case, the words reconveyance clears the lien, the phrase we recorded at 8:15, and the budget conversation where my life shrank to Visa and Chase and 10,000 little humiliations that ended with Lucas being paid back. At the bottom of the voice memo, I said the date twice, June 3rd, 2024, because details matter when paper meets court. I padded back to the kitchen, turned on the under-cabinet lights, the kind that make a man feel like a burglar in his own home, and zoomed my phone to catch the black case. The seal finally flashed, a notary stamp with someone else's name. Not Maya's, not Lucas's. I took the photo. 2, 3. I filmed 7 seconds of the county recorder site where a login screen IDs the user in the top right corner. I captured the alias the site displayed. That alias would matter later. From the basement, Maya's voice rose as if to scold the air. Dan, where's the sample? He signs his last name with a long G like a tail. If I can't see it, it won't match. I left the kitchen the way I came, quiet as guilt. At 4:42 a.m., I dialed Ronald Weaver, my attorney of 33 years, a man who once rescued me from a contractor who tried to pass off pine as walnut. Ron is the kind who never sleeps, or maybe he hires sleep to sit for him. He answered on the second ring. James, are you alive? I'm in Daniel's kitchen. I have to stop a reconveyance. Silence. Then the sound of a chair scraping. Speak slowly. I told him everything I'd seen and heard, as if pulling beads on a wire. Black case. Brother printer. Papers. Reconveyance. County site. 815. Alias. He asked for the alias. MJR. Notary Pro. 122. I said. The Notary Pro part. Good, Ron said, voice gone flat like it does when a machine he's built begins to move. Email me the photos and audio. Use the subject line fraudulent reconveyance. Adair, urgent. Do not confront anyone. Do not sign anything. Do not leave the original note. Put the note in a fireproof box if you have one. You do. I have a shoebox, I said. The fireproof went with Ellen when everything went. He grunted. Shoebox is better than a kitchen drawer. Listen, I'm filing an affidavit of forgery with the county recorder at 8:00 and a lease pinned-ins to cloud the title. I'll call Title Guard. I'll call Westlake Title. I'll put an alert with First Sterling, the Helic lender. If they started funding, we freeze it. If they file a reconveyance that isn't yours, we get a temporary restraining order by none. James. Yes. Do not be noble. This is theft. It just wears family clothes. I know, I said, and felt the steel slide back into my spine. He paused. Bring the original note to my office at 9. We'll scan. I'll call a runner to sit at the recorders till they open. And, James, we'll need to talk about the rest after. You know what I mean? I did. Wills. Trusts. Mistakes that look like love. At 8:17 a.m., when the bank's automatic doors breathed open and the lobby's fake ficus shook from air conditioning, I was there wearing the suit I'd worn to Ellen's memorial. The cuffs were frayed. That felt apartment. I had the note in a manila envelope inside the suit jacket, the way you carry something both precious and incriminating. The branch manager, a narrow woman named Kendra with earrings that doubled as weapons, saw me before I saw her. Mr. Lang, she said, bright as the tile. Here, to see Daniel? He was just in. I need to speak with the Helic department immediately, I said, more loudly than a man ought to at a bank, and heads tilted my way like sunflowers. Kendra blinked. That'll be upstairs. Do you have an appointment? I have a lawyer, I said. He's on hold. There's an attempt to record a reconveyance on my deed of trust without my signature. When she hesitated, I added, the FBI calls it mortgage fraud. I call it family breakfast. That did it. She waved me toward her glass cubicle and shut the door. Behind me, Maya stepped in from the sidewalk, summer dress efficient, hair already sleek despite the heat. She saw me, stopped, recalculated. Lucas followed, like moon to planet. Daniel drifted behind, pale. Dad, he started. Not now, I said, because some doors close for good and you get to choose when. Miss Kendra, this is a good moment to not be in the lobby. We all fit into the cubicle like an allegory. The Helic officer, a young man who had never been alive in a world where you sign things with fountain pens, appeared with a folder. He smiled as if he sells to everyone's grandfather. Mr. Lang, is there a problem? My son and his wife attempted to present a forged reconveyance to remove my lien, I said. They intend to close a $200,000 line of credit on property encumbered by my deed of trust. The original note is in my jacket. Dad, Daniel said, flush rising. It's not like that. What is it like? I turned. Used the words. I paid for your house. I recorded a lien. You tried to erase me and borrow more. Maya opened her palm like an argument. You lent us the money at 2.75. That rate is unfair in this market. We can get better terms, consolidate debt. You can pay what you owe, I said, and the glass cubicle made my voice look bigger than it was. Lucas cleared his throat. No crime here, old man. Reconveyances are filed all the time. By the lender, I said, not looking at him. Which is me. Kendra had the presence of mind to put a non-committal smile on her face and dial a number from a laminated card. I'm calling our risk team, she said brightly. And, Mr. Weaver is on line 2 for you, Mr. Lang. I took Ron's call in front of them because theater has its place. Weaver, I said, as if irritated at a delay that was not his fault. Tell me the recorder didn't eat our affidavit. Filed, he said. Stamp 8:05 AM lease pendants, stamped 8:11. I spoke with Title Guard. They put internal freeze. Westlake Title flagged MJR, Notary Pro, 122 as suspect since March. Also, papers shuffled. I pulled county logs. There was an attempted record or reconveyance at 8:03. It bounced for signature verification failure. The system compared signatures from your 2017 deed of trust. Your son's team tried to upload a scan. It did not pass. Maya's mouth tightened like thread drawn too far. Lucas finally stopped smiling. Ron lowered his voice. I'll see you at 9. Bring your patience. I hung up and looked at the faces in the glass. Banking carpet makes everyone look smaller. Daniel, I said, do you remember what your mother told you when she gave you the spare key to our house? He blinked. That I was always safe there. She was right, I said, and still is, which is why I'm going to keep you from ruining your life with fraud, even if you think it saves you. The Hellick officer stood. Given the lease pendants and the affidavit, we cannot proceed, he announced, using the passive voice like a parachute. I'll mark the application withdrawn. Maya didn't look at me when she left. Daniel did. A man can forgive anything except the first time his child looks at him as a problem to be solved. Ron's office smelled like paper and peppermints. His assistant, Melissa, has a pen that could cut glass and a way of making photocopies feel like notarizations. By 9:12 AM the note was scanned, the affidavit was stapled, and my copy of the lease pendants wore its court stamp like a medal. Now, Ron said, tapping the table with his knuckle 3 times, the way he does when he is about to pronounce sentence. We go from defense to offense. We drafted a complaint that any decent judge could read with coffee. Lang versus Lang at all causes of action. Fraud, attempted forgery, conspiracy to commit real estate fraud, conversion, breach of fiduciary duty, because family may not be fiduciaries, but sons with joint access to account cross lines when they cross lines, and for dessert, intentional infliction of emotional distress. Requested relief. Injunction to prevent any conveyance. An order requiring surrender of any false documents. Damages in the amount of $312,500. The remaining principal plus the cost of unwinding their mess. Attorney's fees and costs. Harsh, I said, reading. My hand looked old against the clean white of legal paper. Ron snorted. Just. Not harsh. Just. Will it destroy him? I asked, and hated that I had to. What destroys a man is what he does, Ron said. We're only asking the court to call it by its proper name. He looked at me over his glasses. Do you want a restraining order today? I considered the way Maya's hand shakes when she lies. The way Daniel's breath went shallow in the bank. Yes, I said. For the property, not for Sophie. She's 6. She still wants to show me her tap shoes. Ron nodded once and picked up his pen like a gavel. Then we shall keep her tap shoes tapping where they belong. Courtrooms are a kind of theater where the props are fixed and the script is half surprise. At 2:00 p.m. we filed into Department 48, where Judge Marisol Hahn presides with a voice that could flatten the CEO, the second climax of a man's day, and all I'd eaten was a granola bar and a cup of courthouse coffee that tasted like a budget meeting. Maya arrived in beige, the color of professional regret. Daniel wore the Navy suit I bought him for his first job interview, an irony that had traveled poorly. Lucas found a chair far from the front, as if distance would weaken evidence. On the ex parte application of the plaintiff for a temporary restraining order, Judge Hahn read, "Mr. Weaver, good afternoon. Mr. and Mrs. Lang, do you have counsel?" Maya lifted her chin. We didn't have time. That is the nature of ex parte proceedings, Judge Hahn said, not unkindly. Mr. Weaver, proceed. Ron made it simple. He always does. He placed the original note down in a clear sleeve, as reverent as church. He played 15 seconds of My Midnight Whisper about MJAR, Notary Pro 122. He called out the attempted e-record at 8:03 a.m. in the bouts. He listed the sums, the dates, the purpose. He didn't make me a saint. He made me a lender. Judges like lenders because the law knows what to do with paper. Then it was my turn because the best evidence is a face that tells the same story as the documents. Mr. Lang, the judge said, "How long have you held this note?" "Since March 15, 2017, Your Honor." "Have you received payments?" "Intermittently. Reduced during COVID. We had an agreement in writing that they would resume at $1,200 per month. They did for a while. Then they didn't." "Why did you not forgive a note?" "Because I set the interest low to be forgiving. Because I wanted to teach my son that obligations mean something. Also, I glanced at Daniel, who looked so much like Ellen in the way his left eyebrow rises when he's cornered. Because it was my wife's wish." Judge Hahn looked at Maya. "Mrs. Lang." Maya's hands were perfect, even as she pulled the edge of her sleeve nervously. "We intended to simplify our finances, Your Honor. The reconveyance was an error in judgment. We believed Mr. Lang would agree." "You believed you could sign for him?" Her mouth opened and closed. We had a sample." Judge Hahn's eyebrow did something amphibious. "A sample." Ron slid an 8x10 photo across. "The notary stamp. The alias on the county system. The lender is me." Those 5 words change air pressure. The judge turned to Daniel. "Mr. Lang, do you understand that if I were to sign off on an order to show cause for contempt at some later stage, you could be looking at criminal exposure?" "Yes," Daniel said, voice smaller than the seat he was in. "I do." "Good." She signed a TRO with a hard, crisp stroke. "Recording of any reconveyance or borrowing against this property is enjoined pending further order. The lease pendant stands. Hearing on a preliminary injunction in 14 days. I encourage you to seek counsel and consider settlement." And Mr. Lang, she looked at my son and did not look away. Some debts cannot be refinanced away. In the quiet after the storm, numbers came home like pigeons. I sat at my own kitchen table, the one I paid for on clearance in 1998, with a bowl of lentil soup and a ledger open, because men like me find comfort in columns. I added it again, because justice is partly arithmetic. Cash transfers to Daniel and Maya since 2017 beyond the note. $163,248. Yes, the IVF. Yes, the daycare. Yes, the tickets to New York. Direct payments to vendors, roof, HVAC, the temporary storage unit that lasted 2 years, $19,700. Groceries and grandpa treats. I kept every Costco receipt in a folder because Ellen always did $12,400 over 5 years, which mostly means strawberries and a small girl's happiness. Rent paid back to them while I lived in the guest room. $900 times 24 equals $21,600, which would make a decent used car, but instead bought me polite notes about dishwashers. Total outside the note, $216,948. Add the $310,000 principal due, and we're at $526,948. I wrote the number and drew a box around it, as if lines could give it a moral boundary. If Maya needed a number to respect, here it was, a $500,000 father. We did not settle quickly. People who justify themselves need time to untie their knots. Maya hired a lawyer who wrote letters like ice cubes. Daniel avoided my eyes at Sophie's piano recital, where she did Happy Murder to Debussy and then ran into my arms as if courts did not exist. "You coming for spaghetti night?" she asked, and I promised the moon. Daniel hovered by the juice table with a paper cup and said, "Dad, but sometimes Dad is a place," and he had moved away. When the first settlement conference came, I wore a sweater Ellen had bought the winter before she got sick, because armor is what you make of it. Maya's lawyer spoke about miscommunication and family dynamics that conspired to confuse. Ron placed a copy of the e-record log on the table and didn't speak at all. Finally, Daniel said to the wall, "We were drowning." It sounded less like an excuse than an autopsy. "I would have helped you," I said. "I have helped you. But help is not erasure." Maya studied her hands. "So what do you want?" "Payment plan," Ron said, because he is a surgeon with words. "Reset the loan at 4% going forward, amortized over 15 years. Immediately repay the $216,948 in non-loan advances in one lump sum within 6 months through sale of your second car, liquidation of discretionary investments, or refinancing that does not touch the Adair property while the lien stands. Remove Lucas from your lives where finances are concerned. Provide quarterly statements. Put the property taxes on automatic pay, so I never have to ask again." Or, he shrugged, "We proceed," and I asked the court to appoint a receiver. Maya's lawyer whispered at her. Maya nodded once, the way you nod when you've been caught speeding and the cop is kind. "We could do the plan," she said, but made it sound like exile. 6 months. I thought of soft afternoons in 1991 when a toddler Daniel fell asleep on my chest and drooled into my shirt like a benediction. I thought of the cold, bright light at 2:06 a.m. in a woman's voice saying, "We file before he is awake." I thought of Ellen's scar from her port, the place where poison tried to win. 6 months, I said, and set the pen down with all the ceremony I had left. You'd think the end of a story like this is triumphant. Judge's gavel, check delivered, public apology. Life prefers quiet. The check for $216,948 came in 3 pieces over 5 months. They sold a Lexus and bought a used Subaru. Maya stopped coloring her hair for a while. Daniel took extra shifts, and the under-eye bruises faded, as if work is a kind of absolution. They made their monthly loan payment on time 2 months in a row, and I tried not to keep the envelope like a trophy. In December, at Sophie's school holiday pageant where cardboard stars threatened to combust under hot stage lights, Daniel sat next to me and cleared his throat the way Ellen used to when she wanted me to notice the obvious. "I'm sorry," he said, like a man who has rehearsed a sentence so long it arrived pre-warned. "I don't know how we got there." "Step by step," I said. "People always walk to their disasters." He looked at the stage. "She said it was just paper. Paper holds houses up," I said, "and marriages." He nodded. Sophie's class mangled Jingle Bells with joy. He put his hand on my forearm, the way men do when they need to touch, but not perform. Do you still want spaghetti night?" "I do," I said, and the words surprised me with how much I meant them. On December 22, 2024, Judge Hahn signed the stipulated order staying the case, so long as payments continued. The lease pendants remained. The lien remained. I remained. In January, we sat at their cherry table and ate spaghetti with too much garlic, and Sophie showed me a worksheet where she drew a picture of a house and a stick figure with a scarf. "That's you, Grandpa," she said. "The scarf is purple like Grandma's." I looked around the room. A KitchenAid mixer that would have bored Ellen, a Dyson vacuum that would have delighted her, a shelf of children's books, the same microwave blinking the same indifferent blue, and realized I had finally moved out of the guest room in my head. I was a father still, but also again myself. At 2 a.m., men hear voices. Some are memory. Some are malice. Some are the echo of your own better judgment, returning to you in time to be useful. The last thing my lawyer said before he left me at my front door that first day was, "You did right, James." I told him I wished that felt like victory. He told me it rarely does. But there is a certain music in signing your name to your own boundary and meaning it. The next morning, the microwave blinked 7:03. The colon pulsed generically. I turned the machine off. The silence felt like respect. And I thought of Ellen's purple scarf, folded on the basement box, waiting for someone to remember what love looks like when it isn't trying to cash itself. I went to the closet, took the scarf out, and looped it once around my neck. It hung there like proof that some promises don't need to be written to be real. Coffee, I said to the empty room, just to hear the sound of a man who still had a voice. Yes, I told myself, smiling. Black, and leave the paper where it belongs. I poured, and for once, nothing in this house tried to erase me.